Craig, tell us about how people should use archaeology in the field of apologetics, and in particular, help us to understand maybe some of the errors that people who are over eager to defend the faith end up making when they use archaeological evidence.
Yeah, that is a very important point to raise. Archaeology primarily clarifies context.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it really does. So we understand better how people lived, the kind of food they ate, the clothes they wore, their practices, trade, travel. In the Jewish world, we're very interested to see, did they take their food laws, kosher food laws, seriously? Mm-hmm. The evidence is that they did. Mm-hmm. And the standards of living, how they built their homes, all sorts of information about just the way they lived. And what that does is it provides very significant context for understanding gospel passages, Jesus' parables, when he describes people traveling, preparing food, working in the fields, relationships between owners and servants, and so on it goes. That's what archaeology really does. It fills in the blanks, gives us a context so that we read Scripture more intelligently. However, sometimes archaeology, in fact, knocks the ball right out of the park and proves something. And I can understand then why there's an apologetic interest in what archaeology potentially does. Mm-hmm. For example, there's evidence now overwhelmingly that the Gospels were correct all along in talking about synagogues, actual buildings in which Jesus taught. There was a skeptical scholar 20 years ago who said that's an anachronism. There weren't any synagogue buildings until after the year 70. And, well, guess what? He's wrong, and there are now 10 and counting. Mm-hmm. Well, okay, sometimes that happens. So there are examples like that. But where sometimes well-intentioned, but maybe naive apologists get it wrong is they're out to prove something. Mm-hmm. And archaeology is seen as simply a discipline that's designed to prove things or to show the Bible's right. And what that can end up doing is it can discredit archaeology, and it can discredit apologetics too, because it suggests taking a very biased approach. Archaeology is approached with an open mind. We want to understand the world of Jesus and the early church better, and so we're going to dig and we're going to look at things and we're going to find out how did people live back then. And that's the approach we really should take.
Yeah, a more patient approach. And one of the things I encourage students who are watching this, if they want to be an apologist, is go find something that you're an expert in and serve the community in that way. And in some ways, yes, we need generalists and be that. But if one of the ways I think that we can really benefit this apologetic task is if we come together as a community and we have Christian experts speaking on archaeology, and then maybe working with generalist practitioners to help communicate this in a clear way to a more popular audience. And so I think that's sage advice. Thank you for that. Let me ask you about, now I know we were talking about this off camera and you wanted it to be clear that you're a New Testament scholar and yet very much interested and do work in archaeology. And there's been some recent developments in archaeology, in particular with some text of the New Testament. And could you just speak in generality about some of that and give our people at least a brief update on what's going on there?
Well, archaeology is one of those fields that it's reinventing itself every season. Seasons typically are May, June, July. Sometimes they go a little longer, but a season is defined that way because that's when students get out of school, and students are the volunteers, and sometimes their parents or grandparents go with them. So in my experience, volunteers, it's 50-50. University-age students and retirees. It's excellent. And so every single year we dig and we find more stuff, and so then we have new things to reassess.
Let me just stop you there. If somebody was wanting to get involved and just be a volunteer, how would they go about that? Is there a way? Is there a
Yes.
website? Can you fill them in?
The Biblical Archaeology Society has a website. That's the society that publishes Biblical Archaeology Review. And every March issue of BAR, Biblical Archaeology Review, they list all the sites and contact information. And it's online as well in the BAS website that's online. And so you can find out which sites are working, the dates. Typically they're 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes 8 weeks. They typically want you to volunteer for at least 2 weeks. And there's a small fee for being involved. You're a volunteer, you're not paid anything. You find your own way to Israel or to Greece or Turkey or wherever it is. But they do come up with fairly cheap accommodations. I've done it. I've brought along with me graduate students. Everybody enjoys it. You get up early in the morning. You usually report to the dig site around 6. About noon, you're done for the day. You have your lunch, and then you have the rest of the day to enjoy yourself.
Excellent.
It's a fun thing to do.
Excellent. And you don't need an advanced degree or anything like that? Okay. That's great.
I've been at these digs with teenagers, 17, 18 years old. They're not even in university yet. And it's brand new. They get some training. They enjoy it. And what will happen is they'll come back. And of course, the veteran volunteer digger is worth his or her weight in gold as far as the archaeologist is concerned, because the archaeologist knows that this young man or young woman knows what he or she is doing, and that is really good.
Great. That's great. That's great for our viewers. I know many of you will probably want to check those websites out, and we'll try to put a link even as to help you find some of that information. I want to return to one last segment and talk a little bit about some New Testament manuscripts that might help us, some things that Dr. Evans has been working with recently.